Have you been going through the last couple of days and saying to yourself, I'm tired of seeing all the clips on Twitter. I'm tired of seeing all the clips on YouTube. I'm tired of seeing all the things that are going on now that Lane Kiffin is the head coach at LSU. And you say to yourself, you know the one thing that no one is saying about Lane Kiffin? You know, everything that's going on in the national media, all the talking pundits, all of the chatter that is out there now that he is the head coach of LSU. You know, I hear that, oh, he left his team and he hasn't changed and all of these things about Lane Kiffin and him not being at Ole Miss anymore, about being at LSU. You know the one thing that I've noticed? You know the one thing that it was like a light bulb that went off in my head. You know the one thing that nobody's talking about? Everybody wants to talk about staff, Frank, Blake Baker, all of those things. They want to talk about Ole Miss and Keith Carter and Ole Miss constantly every single day talking about Lane Kiffin. You're about to go to a playoff game and you're still talking about Lane Kiffin day in and day out. Now, LSU should because they have a brand new head coach. But day after day after day, you're not talking about your new head coach. You're talking about the old one. But like a light bulb, you know when it went off in my mind today? What went off in my mind was, why isn't anyone talking about what Lane Kiffin's going to do at LSU on the field? If you notice, it's always about, oh, man, he hasn't changed. If he does it to us, he'll do it to you. They talk about it, oh, I'm sure the NFL in a couple of years are going to be coming and calling for Lane Kiffin, and he's going to leave LSU high and dry like he did Ole Miss. Maybe that's true. They talk about every single little detail. Oh, he forgot the dog, even though it seems like today that he's going to bring Juice Kiffin, and we have a new addition in Baton Rouge, that being the beautiful dog that calls himself Juice Kiffin. But yet nobody, any day, anytime over the last week, or really just to say since Sunday, everyone wants to keep talking about, oh, he's a horrible person. He's a horrible person. What about Ole Miss? Look what's going on here. They're letting Charlie Weiss come back because he acted like an adult. Well, he got on the plane with Lane Kiffin, then immediately signed a deal with LSU. But you're letting him coach and not Lane Kiffin. That's neither here nor there. Why isn't anybody talking about what Lane Kiffin's going to do on the field, the place where it actually matters? But the bottom line remains is that every time that I keep seeing people talk about Lane Kiffin every single second of every single day, is that the biggest superstar right now in college football, they want to paint him as the villain. Now, we've talked about embracing the villain role. I'm going to do it. Okay. Sounds good. We'll be the villain. Why aren't you talking about what he's going to do on the field? You know, I hear the thought process of, and I'm flabbergasted. Everyone's like, yeah, he's going to win big there. He's going to do a lot of really good things at LSU. But why do you have to talk and put the but in there anyway? Why can't you say, well, you know what? And what no one's doing right now, because they don't know. Why, when you were talking about Lane Kiffin today, did you not talk about him closing Richard Anderson? Why didn't you talk about him holding off all the negativity on other teams going after Lamar Brown today? And yes, he did not sign, and I think that they're going to trend in the right direction there. Why did they not talk about him holding on to the class and bringing and cutting some guys loose, bringing in and cutting some other guys loose that he thinks that could shape for his class? Why didn't you want to talk about that? Because positivity on him doesn't sell. Positivity on the villain doesn't sell. Positivity on what LSU could be under him doesn't sell right now because the algorithm on social media is set. Lane Kiffin villain, LSU bad guy, Lane Kiffin bad guy, and none of you want to talk about on the field. You don't want to talk about in the last 6 years that there's one guy on the top of that list who's number one in the SEC in rushing in the last 6 years, that being Lane Kiffin. A Lane Kiffin offense is number one in the SEC in rushing the last 6 years. Why don't we want to talk about that? What are your thoughts and sentiments going to be when LSU goes into the portal and spends money in the portal to go get players for a guy who's coming off of 11-1 team? You know, we hear all of these things. We see all of these things. We see it all on social media all the live long day. No one has talked about him leading a team to 11-1 in the SEC at Ole Miss. He left his team. He left them high and dry. He's a liar. Lane Kiffin lied about what happened at Ole Miss. Color me shocked that a coach lied. Color me shocked that Keith Carter, the AD at Ole Miss, is lying. Now, I'm glad that a lot of these things are coming out. Ole Miss said they knew 2 weeks ago. Did you? Because if you knew it 2 weeks ago, then you completely mismanaged the situation. And you also confirmed our story last night that 2 Wednesdays ago, you were in the great state of Louisiana talking to John Summerall because you knew that Lane Kiffin had gone. You knew that he wasn't going to be there. So you went after John Summerall. But if you knew Lane Kiffin was leaving and you knew that you were going to get to the playoff game and you knew all of these things, why did you keep letting him coach? Oh, because you needed the wins versus Florida. You needed the win versus Mississippi State to get into the playoff. So you utilized him when you needed to because you know that he's the best in-game play caller in the country. You know it, and you don't want to admit it. See, what they don't want to talk about, guys, is and something that you should prepare yourself for. Because this is the best play caller in all of college football when it comes to calling plays on the offensive side. He is going to get every single ounce out of the players that he will have. He's going to get every single ounce out of their ability offensively to be the best that they can be. He's literally done it everywhere. He's done it at USC twice. He's done it at Tennessee. He's done it at Alabama. He's done it at FAU. He's done it at Ole Miss. So the one time that I guess he's going to miss now is going to be LSU. They don't want to talk about a team that went 11-1 and their only losses to the number 3 team in the country on the road, I might add. On the road. They don't want to talk about him scoring 35 straight points on what might be the SEC champion of this year, the Georgia Bulldogs, with a less talented roster. What happens when that roster pool and that player pool becomes a little bit more even for Lane Kiffin? Why don't you want to talk about that? I know why you don't want to, because you want to paint him the villain. I just don't understand leaving a playoff team. You know, like I heard some national media members today saying, oh, tough shit, you should have stayed. Brother, 2 years ago, you left a local business to go to the worldwide leader in sports. The other one left a local place to go to Barstool. No, not T-Bob. So wait a minute. Why are you sitting here being hypocritical? But when we actually put our feet, we put our cleats in grass, nobody's talking about it. Because I think you're going to go out there and dominate the portal. At least I hope that you do. I hope that you go out there and dominate the portal. Is what LSU is saying about the NIL and the $25 million. Go spend it. Go get elite players to be here. You probably had to do that with this current high school class because the truth of the matter is you can't go out there and keep saying during a coaching carousel, hey, man, we gave Lane Kiffin the most money of all the teams that were wanting his services for him to go get the most elite roster in the country to go and win a national title. And think that players weren't going to renegotiate with you. But I find it interesting that one of those players who might have had second thoughts, well, he stated today that he is signing with LSU. And I believe him. Everybody's freaking out. I've been to many of recruiting days. Well, Blake, LSU didn't announce that he signed. I think you should be patient there. But they don't talk about is Richard Anderson admitting today that he went to Baton Rouge last night to meet with Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin closed him. And I kept it real with him, and he kept it real with me. And I said, I'm all right, sounds good. I'm going to LSU. He sold me. You know, last night we talked about to Lamar Brown, Deuce Geralds, Richard Anderson, to those guys, you got to sell your future plan. Money's going to be money, and LSU's going to get it. Money will be money. But the bottom line remains, you got to go sell your vision. Because, guys, LSU is going to match what everyone else in the country is going to match. Can't say that you're going to spend all of this money in the portal, all of this money in recruiting, and then not do it now. Can't say that. It seems like the booster base, and it seems like that the big boosters are, well, they're rallying behind Lane Kiffin to go and get an elite roster. Everyone seems aligned now. None of those kids decommitted. So you have the number one, technically number two, but number one player along the interior of the defensive line telling you today, yeah, I met with Lane Kiffin and he closed me. You know, you asked for Brian Kelly to do something similar. You know, you asked for Brian Kelly to be more involved in recruiting, and within 48 hours, you got Lamar Brown in the building with Lane Kiffin, and you got Richard Anderson signing with all of the chaos that surrounded you. We're going to talk about this signing class today. Yes, you got to land Lamar Brown, the number one player in the country. Yes, you got to get him signed. Same that I believe with Deuce Geralds. Now that you're here, you're going to have to fend off teams like Georgia Tech, I believe it's what it is. You're going to have to fend them off. But if you do that, then you go in the portal, you start feeling a lot better about your class and the direction that you're going with a coach who's the best play caller in the country, and now might have started to reduce that gap with Georgia.